Welcome to the special meeting of the Bakersfield City Council. Now speaking, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to call to order the 4 p.m. special City Council meeting of May 8th, 2024. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Arias.
Here.
Councilmember Weir. Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Freeman. Councilmember Gray.
Here.
Councilmember Kaur.
Here. Thank you. In keeping with Council's new resolution, public statements are now received at different times depending on the item. I will call on the City Clerk to call for public statements at the appropriate time, so please listen carefully for the correct time to speak. If you wish to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and place it in the tray on the counter next to the speaker podium. We ask that you mark whether you are here to speak on an item listed on today's agenda or in a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda public statements. If you're here on an item not listed on the meeting agenda, you will be called first to speak. Statements are given a 2-minute time limit per speaker, 20 minutes total for non-agenda item public statements. If you're here to speak on an item listed on the agenda, I will call for you at the appropriate time, so please listen carefully. If public statements become disruptive and I have to clear the chambers to regain order of the meeting, you will be called in one at a time to provide your public statement when the item is called. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Consider this a first warning to everyone in attendance that conduct that disrupts this meeting may result in expulsion and or the chamber being cleared. Behavior that disrupts the meeting includes repetitive statements, shouting, interrupting staff or presenters during the meeting, speaking out of turn, outbursts from the audience, surpassing the 2-minute time limit. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we have not received any public speaker cards for items not listed on tonight's agenda, nor for items on today's agenda.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Closed session item 3A, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation. One matter.
Vice Mayor.
Move to adjourn to closed session.
We are adjourned to closed session. Reconvening the City Council meeting of 4 o'clock at 4:45. Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. There was one item on closed session tonight, item 3A, a matter of potential litigation, and City Attorney was given unanimous direction by a vote of 5-0. Absent was Councilmember Ken Weir, and Councilmember Bruce Freeman recused himself due to a potential source of income. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we stand adjourned at 4:45.
Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order the 5:15 regular City Council meeting of May 8th, 2024. Welcome to all of you. I see the office of Dr. Jasmine Baines, Assemblywoman here. Thank you for representing. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Arias.
Here.
Councilmember Weir. Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
Councilmember Gray. Here. And Councilmember Kaur.
Here. Thank you. We have the pleasure tonight of having Pastor Kevin Edwards Sr., pastor of Rising Star Baptist Church, to offer the invocation. Thank you, Pastor, for all the efforts of your church. I know you've been very, very involved in the community and the neighborhood. Following the invocation, Vice Mayor will lead us in the pledge. Would you please stand?
Lord, as your servants gather today for official business, we want to thank you for our mayor, the city council, and the leaders at every level in our city. Give them grace to bring truth, justice, and stability to our region, and give them power to do what is right and to rule in fairness. And may our community be known for its justice. And then, Father, we thank you for your grace and your goodness, and may your face continually shine upon them, so that your ways may be known in our communities. And then we praise you, God, and may all the people praise you. And then, our Lord, we yield this harvest, and you, Lord, will bless us. Psalm 67, and 1 through 4. And then, Lord, we give you our land, our homes, our labor, and our city. Look with favor on our community. Protect our citizens and leaders, and enrich our land so that we may be blessed to others, and that you would be honored and lifted up in our community. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. And Pastor, if you need to leave, we certainly understand that, but you're welcome to stay and join us. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We request that you turn off your phones. Please be courteous in the use of cameras and videos. For safety reasons and as a courtesy to others, no signs are allowed in the council chamber or in the lobby. Applause is allowed during the presentations portion of the meeting, but not during other portions of the meeting. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Consider this a first warning to everyone in attendance that conduct that disrupts this meeting may result in your removal from the meeting and or the chambers being cleared. Behavior that disrupts the meeting includes repetitive statements, shouting, interrupting staff or presenters during the meeting, speaking out of turn, outbursts from the audience, and surpassing the 2-minute time limit. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Presentations. Presentations, item 4A, a proclamation to Jeremy Tobias, CEO of CAPK, and Savannah Oates, Advocacy and Public Relations Manager and Chair of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Community Development at CAPK, declaring Community Action Month in Bakersfield during May 2024.
Thank you. May 2024 has been designated as National Community Action Month, celebrating the nation's 1,000 plus community action agencies. CAPK works to connect people to life-changing services and pathways for prosperity across the nation. Congratulations on 60 years of innovation, impact, and proven results to our community. And thank you to Jeremy Tobias, to Savannah Oaks, and to Lewis Gill for all that they do in our community. It's my honor to read this proclamation. Whereas Community Action Partnership of Kern has made essential contributions to individuals and families across Kern County by creating economic opportunities and strengthening communities. And whereas CAPK addresses underlying causes of poverty, alleviates the effects and promotes dignity and self-sufficiency in the communities that we serve. And whereas CAPK delivered over 20 million pounds of food across Kern County in 2023 through the Cap K Food Bank. And whereas Cap K operates Friendship House Community Center located in Bakersfield, tending to the children within our city and providing a site for educational assistance, mentorship, and community. Now, therefore, I, Karen Go, Mayor of the City of Bakersfield, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as National Community Action Month in our city and thank Cap K for its dedicated service to our Bakersfield residents. It's my privilege to present this to CEO Jeremy Tobias and his team.
Thank you, Mayor and fellow council members. Cap K was founded in May of 1965, and we operate 19 distinct programs here in Kern County, serving 114,000 people annually. We have a staff of 960 dedicated and passionate employees that care about our community and our mission to move people out of poverty towards self-sufficiency. As we like to call it, we assist people in achieving their version of the American dream. We all have our own version of the American dream. It's not really important what it is, but we help people get to that vision. To do that, we operate programs such as Head Start, the Kern County Food Bank, Friendship House, 211, homeless services, energy programs, and many other services. With me this evening is Savannah Oates and Lewis Gill, and Savannah would like to mention a couple items to you.
Good evening. Thank you for this proclamation. We wanted to invite all of you on May 21st to our new facility on 18th Street. We'll be having a Community Action Month blood drive. We'd like to give back in any way possible. That's our celebration from 8 to 4 p.m. And just follow us on socials in regards to all the fun events we have planned for the rest of the year. Thank you.
And real quick in closing, the most important thing about this evening is the partnership. Part of Community Action Partnership is our partnerships. And we work very closely with the city. I wanted to take a minute to say thank you to the city council, the city staff, for all the assistance you give us and the partnerships. We cannot serve a community of this size and a county of this size without the partnerships. At the Friendship House, the food bank, our different programs, we coordinate with city staff all the time. In fact, I think an agenda item this evening for CBG funding includes a project at the Friendship House. So we appreciate that partnership and the help that the city offers us to provide these programs to the community, and they are life-changing programs. Thank you very much.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to congratulate Community Action Partnership. Forgive me, my allergies tonight are inhibiting me at some level. But I just want to congratulate Community Action Partnership for all the work they've done throughout the years, serving all of our community residents, but certainly those in the most disadvantaged neighborhoods in our community. You've done an incredible work, particularly throughout the pandemic when so many people were experiencing crisis situations. I want to thank you for all of the work throughout the years. And I also want to welcome you to downtown Bakersfield. I'm super excited that your administrative office is now in the heart of the city of Bakersfield.
Proclamation to Alex Esparza, Maintenance Craft Worker 2 for the City of Bakersfield, and Greg Strakalus, Director of Public Works for the City of Bakersfield, declaring National Public Works Week in Bakersfield during the week of May 20th, 2024.
Colleagues, imagine a city with no roads to drive on, no stoplights, no sewer, no running water. That would be our plight without the infrastructure that Public Works provides. And we're so grateful for the men and women who support our Public Works Department. And tonight we're joined by Maintenance Worker 2, Alex Esparza. He's served our city since 2000. That's nearly 24 years of resolute commitment to the residents of our community. Thank you so much, Alex, Mr. Strakalous, and our city's Public Works. We're going to keep shaking for all that you do, and it's my honor to be able to present this proclamation. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Bakersfield. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, now therefore I, Karen Go, Mayor of the City of Bakersfield, do hereby proclaim May 19th through 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week in our city and urge all citizens and civic organizations to recognize the contributions public works officials make every day to our health, to our safety, to our comfort, and to our quality of life. It's my honor to be able to celebrate this, Alex and Mr. Strakalous. And I think you're going to introduce him. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This year, Public Works wanted to do something a little different. We wanted to identify an employee, and there were many to choose from, but we chose Alex because you may have heard about the story about the man who single-handedly dug a 30-foot ditch 2 feet deep to reestablish a sanitary sewer line to a fire station. You may have heard about the story of a man who custom-built cabinets for fire station, I think it was number 5, recently. And you may have also heard about the rumors about a Public Works employee who actually does something with nothing. He makes things happen when there are no tools to make it happen. He finds a way to make it happen. That's Alex Esparza. So Alex, thank you for receiving the honor today.
Take a picture?
Oh, my wife's gonna take a picture of it too.
Okay,
So,
well, take care of
yeah.
it right here. Come right here, turn it around right there. Come on over.
Oh, got a bunch of them here, so. All right, 3, 2, 1. We got it when you were doing it.
Thank you so much. Who wants to talk? Sure. I'm glad you're not shy.
Thank you for this. I'm just one of the so many city employees that keep the wheels of the city rolling. So thank you for this presentation. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for doing the work that might not, and everyone at Public Works, it's not always the most glamorous, but without your work, our city literally wouldn't run. So just from the bottom of my heart, lots of gratitude, and thank you for the humility and really doing the most essential work. So the city literally would not run without you.
Our next portion of the meeting is public statements. In keeping with the council's new resolution, public statements are now received at different times depending on the item. I will call on the city clerk to call for public statements at the appropriate time, so please listen carefully for the correct time to speak. If you wish to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and place it in the tray on the counter next to the speaker podium. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on tonight's agenda or in a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for non-agenda public statements. If you're here to speak on an item not listed on the meeting agenda, you will be called first to speak. Statements are given a 2-minute time limit per speaker, 20 minutes total for all non-agenda item public statements. If you're here to speak on an item listed on the agenda, I will call for you at a later time, so please listen carefully. If public statements become disruptive and I have to clear the chambers to regain order of the meeting, you will be called in one at a time to provide your public statement when your item is called. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we've received 9 public speaker cards for items not listed on tonight's agenda. In addition, a staff memorandum has been provided transmitting written correspondence regarding an item not on tonight's agenda. The first 3 public speakers will be Sharon Terrell, followed by Roman Matero, followed by Valeria.
Ms. Terrell? Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sharon Terrell, and it's nice to meet you. The reason why I'm here is because on April the 5th, I had my car stolen out of the parking lot of my gym. Now, the police department, I love you and I want you safe, but you guys dropped the ball. The car was found on the 16th, and when it was found, the person who stole all her items were in there. At least I know she's clean. Her toothbrush and her purse, deodorant, tennis shoes, everything's in there. As a matter of fact, she also wrote her name or love or something, but nobody came to investigate. Nobody, they came and they got the purse, but nobody asked to go look at the video of where the car was stolen to find out. But the most atrocity is being done by the towing company. My car was found on the 16th, and it was towed 2 miles from Harding to Buck Owens. I was charged for an hour and a half for going 2 miles. They charged me $328. Altogether, the toll was $500 and something. When I asked why this was done, I was told that the Kern County Sheriff's Department set the rate, that you guys did this, and you're the ones that set the rate. I went down there and asked the Kern, nope, we don't do that. The Sheriff's Department said, we don't have anything to do with that. We don't set the rates. The tow company does. I go back and tell her. Then I go over and I see the city. The cities, we don't have anything to do with setting the rates. The tow company does it. I went over and I asked General Services, is there something here? No, we don't have anything to do with it. Your accountant that was here last week, when poor man, I ran him down in the street to ask who sets these prices. He says, oh, well, it must be something. It's up there. We have nobody has it. Nobody. And the name of the county of Kern, they are robbing people and they are intimidating people because you see it. It's yes.
Mr. Terrell, your time is up. I'm so sorry that
Okay.
happened. And Mr. Helen, can we have somebody on staff just follow up with Ms. Terrell? We'll make sure that happens. Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Terrell, for coming and speaking today and raising this concern. I'm sorry that this has happened to you. I'm glad Mr. Howland will be following up to find out some more details. But what I'd also like to ask is that you report back to the council regarding what you find related to these rates that she's referring to, these towing rates that are set either by the city or the county, so that we can get some clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Terrell. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Roman Matero, followed by Valeria, followed by Irvin Pike.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Roman Matera. I've spoken at a bunch of these. Actually, I had 2 things. One thing that came up actually just a couple hours ago. I wanted to direct a question actually to the City Council. I saw that the 3:15 p.m. meeting today was canceled, but there was a 4 p.m. meeting held to address some kind of litigation thing. I was just curious why you canceled the 3:15 one. Are you able to comment on that?
It was just because we had a very short item, and so it was to move it ahead, and it was a closed session item.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
thank you.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about is I'm actually here to ask the city to not do something. This is admittedly anticipating a problem, and I just would like to pull up a bit of a quote from an article that I was reading. It says that it's talking about large vehicles, specifically trucks and SUVs, that every year are being made wider. In fact, according to I quote the BBC, according to the nonprofit Transport and Environment, the size of the average car is growing wider at a rate of 1 centimeter or 0.4 inches every 2 years. Now, the reason I bring this up now is because, right now there's probably not much of an issue. But if these trends are continuing, and these trends have been continuing for the past 20 to 30 years, I would bet that, at some point you're going to get some people, whether some kind of citizen or maybe even a lobbyist from, one of the car companies saying something like, the changing standards of the auto market and industry are mandating that you ought to consider making the parking spaces bigger. And if they happen to say that, I would ask that you say no, because these bigger cars hurt the environment, increase the amount of potholes, stress city budgets, and I just think that they're a nuisance to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Valeria, followed by Irvin Pike, followed by Jose Ruben Rangel Lopez.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Afternoon. I was not able to find the time to make a...
Can you get a little closer to the mic, please? Thank you.
I was not able to find the time to make a speech today, but I just wanted to come again to show you guys I'm going to keep coming. I've come, I think this is my 8th meeting now, and I have yet to receive any response from you guys, even though, you like to say that you're gonna work with your constituents, but it hasn't happened for months now. I've been thinking a lot about this article from HuffPost in 2017. It had a very striking headline, and it's all I've been able to think about lately. It reads, "I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people." That's all I have to say. Free Palestine. The death toll has hit over 35,000 innocent civilians, and you guys have yet to do anything about it.
Next speaker, please.
Irvin Pike, followed by Jose Ruben Rangel Lopez, followed by Kev.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Irvin. I want to thank our mayor, Go, and council members and police officers that are here. Words. Words can be very powerful. Actions. Since October 7th, 2023, the day that Hamas raped, killed, tortured, mutilated, and kidnapped innocent men, women, and children, there's been a group that has come to the Bakersfield City Council meetings to demand that our local city council put out a proclamation for ceasefire. I always like to take a look and see how another person's view is other than my own. Yes, I understand how emotional they have become with all the deaths, but I find it very difficult why they would not distinguish between innocent Gazan lives, as Vivian just said, and the ones that caused the war, Hamas. Words. The one thing leads to another. Ms. Patel, with the others here, have used words of hate, calling terrible names to our elected officials. Wearing masks to hide their identity reminds me very much of the intimidation from the Ku Klux Klan, which wasn't that long ago. If our city council cowers to the intimidation and does a declaration for a ceasefire of Hamas for the people of Gaza and Israel, what would happen next? Well, I'll tell you, it would show that all you would have to do is to come here and be intimidating to the city council and come and ask for a declaration. I would like to quote Hamad Hawidi, who is a resident of Gaza City, who has a message for the anti-Israel protesters. You are hurting us. You know what would help the Palestinians in Gaza? Condemning Hamas atrocities, whose ideology is entirely based on the elimination of Israelis from their land. If the protesters cared about Palestinians, they would have one central demand: Hamas must surrender, because we have all suffered from Hamas and can no longer live under the rule of a terrorist
Mr.
group.
Pike, your time is up. Could you bring your statement to a close?
Yeah.
Just go ahead and.
Only
come on.
then can a ceasefire be achieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jose Ruben Rangel Lopez, followed by Kev, followed by Sandra Plasencia.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
I'm nobody. Who are you? Jose Rangel. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. When the sailing's smooth, we hold you guys in regard. When you're down, we kick you. I know you guys are down right now, but the only way back is up. It's never too late to do the right thing. As of late, your actions have been deplorable, disingenuous, and unforgivable. Even still, I find it within me to forgive you. Because I know you don't know what you're doing. How could you? No one is greater than the system. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I know you don't know what you're doing. What I don't know is what you're doing here. Are we just a leg up, a stepping stone for your little assembly runs? Kern County Board of Supervisors seats? Zach Scribner. Rest assured, your positions are set in stone. Your seats are safe. But beware the year of the ballot. This is my ode to the city of Bakersfield. This is my ballad. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Kev, followed by Sandra Plasencia, followed by Wendell Wesley Jr.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Okay. At this point, it's hard to come up here with having anything but dissatisfaction with the city council. And I'll just start with the fact that you guys haven't passed a ceasefire resolution because as I stand here, Rafah has been invaded and they closed the crossing into Egypt. And that's kind of it. That's the final stage of their genocide, of their ethnic cleansing. And this could be something that might change your mind, that if you already didn't know it. But just so you're aware, and just so it's public record, if you weren't already aware, we would love to educate you, and we'd love to have a conversation about it. I know there's many members in this community who would love to have an honest, well-intentioned conversation about the genocide. But maybe you won't listen to me because I come in here with the kafia and I advocate for Palestine. But you haven't listened to the residents who've been coming here advocating for a tenant's right to counsel. It would surely benefit the city if you allocated $2 million in funding the eviction prevention pilot program. Or why haven't you listened to the advocates of the Kern River, those who ask you to provide proper research for ensuring the protection of the wildlife? Or maybe you can let people call into the meetings for those who can't be here feel included. But it doesn't really strike me that you guys are the caring type that really want to look at the proper concerns of the community and look deep with the issues that are going to create long-lasting impacts for everybody. You can't even sign a paper saying that you don't agree with murdering children. You can't really look in our faces and acknowledge a lot of the statements that we say. One of my favorite speakers comes here too and acknowledge that you don't look at them in the eyes when they speak. But today I talk to you calmly and you look into my eyes like you're actually going to do something about this genocide, about passing a ceasefire resolution, or that you're heeding my words, but you don't. Many people come here on a bi-weekly basis and they bring concerns to you that are a lot larger than these resolutions that you pass, but you ignore them and you let them slip out of the way. I don't know. Maybe it's that, or maybe you fuck with the guy that compared mask wearing with the KKK. By the way, I'm done with my speech, and just so you guys know, And for the clerk to know, I have another slip turned in. So don't miss it, clerk. Last week you missed me, and previous to that you've missed me before. So I do have an agenda item as well.
Next speaker, please.
Sandra Placencia, followed by Wendell Wesley Jr., followed by Paul Linfesti.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Sandra Placencia, and I am a current policy advocate with Leadership Council. So Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability and our partner organizations and community members stand before you to ask the city to allocate $2 million for the eviction prevention pilot program. We advocate the city fund a comprehensive program that will provide effective community outreach and education on tenant rights, provide legal guidance to prevent landlord-tenant issues from reaching the eviction process, and attorney representation in courts. Given the amount of comprehensive services, we underscore that the original $350,000 that was originally allocated for this program is not enough. This is why we urge the city to allocate additional funds to equate the funding total to $2 million for the pilot program. It is important to elevate the impact from the delayed implementation of this program. According to the Kern County Superior Court, since June of 2023, over 2,500 evictions were filed against tenants throughout Kern County. This includes Bakersfield. Hundreds of our most vulnerable populations, such as children and seniors, continue to face evictions without the availability of resources to prevent their evictions and remain housed. The long-term impacts of the lack of interventions result in families who are displaced, living in homeless shelters, couch surfing, facing substantial debt, and having evictions on their credit. The city must take action to stop perpetuating impacts that contribute to the housing crisis and ultimately the homelessness crisis. Multiple cities throughout the United States have implemented various versions of their own eviction prevention program. Stout, a consultant agency, has done numerous amounts of research and cost-benefit analysis on eviction right-to-counsel programs. Their cost-benefit analysis covers a wide range of jurisdictions, including urban and rural jurisdictions within the country. Based on their data, their return on investment on a right-to-counsel program ranges from $3 to over $12. None of their cost-benefit analysis have led to a loss of funds. Therefore, we can confidently state that every dollar that the city invests...
Ms. Placencia, your time is up. Yes. Can you bring your comments to a close, please?
Every dollar that the city invests into the eviction protection program will have a positive impact on the city's overall physical stability. We urge you to continue talking with us and meeting with us so we can talk about this further. And we urge you to set aside the funding from PSVS. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Placencia, for making comments tonight. And Mr. Wesley, I know you're going to comment as well. I assume it's related to this. So thank you as well in advance. I think the folks who have spoken on this issue have a point. Evictions it is a dire concern for me. In my community, Ward 2, we've seen a number of families who have struggled, and certainly we've seen evictions throughout the county and in the city of Bakersfield as well. I'm interested in finding out, out of the 2,500 evictions that have been filed against tenants in Bakersfield, how many of those actually are in the city. But I think we ought to take some time and actually look at this issue head on and much more comprehensively, look at what policies or programs or practices are available for us to address eviction protections in our community for Bakersfield residents. So I'd like to make a referral tonight to send this to Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods so that committee can explore this issue. And then also, I know I've asked for it in the past, but would like, again, for the public record, a update on the pilot program that we had allocated funding for last fiscal, or this current fiscal year. But I think those two items we really need to get moving on and figure out what ways in which we can better address the issues related to evictions facing our families. But thank you again.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Yes.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Wendell Wesley Jr., City Council, City Management. Thanks for allowing us all here to speak our piece. For our city has a lot of problems. What city doesn't? Our nation has a lot of problems, but we can't be so overwhelmed by our problems to not see real solutions that are in front of us. There is a solution for every issue and every problem out there, okay? And we just need to challenge ourselves to take a look at everything that's been out there from other cities and other areas that have worked. I know for community land trust works. I figured out a way to make community land trust even better. I just need to find the right team around me to put together a business to make community land trust something that will help the situation that we have, all the problems that we have with homelessness. A lot of it is because we created the situation and problem ourselves by just not building enough affordable housing. And right now, what we call affordable is really not affordable for a lot of residents, okay? That type of a strain creates a lot of mental illness, which creates a lot of violence and other issues, which creates a lot of broken homes and families, which creates a lot of homelessness and drug abuse. So by not doing the right things, we create our own havoc and mayhem in society. So we need to get past that and start making the safe and sane decisions, starting with making affordable housing a constitutional and human right, not just here in Bakersfield, but we can lead the nation in this and show them how it's done. Please talk with us. Please approve the eviction prevention program and everything else we need to make Bakersfield safe and sane and affordable for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Paul Linfesti.
Welcome.
Paul Infesti, Ward 1. I'm someone that actually did show up to the 3:30 meeting. I saw the notice on the door that said the meeting had been canceled, but apparently there was a 4 o'clock meeting when I got here tonight and looked up the agenda and saw it actually had an agenda, which was the same kind of agenda it would have had at 3:30, which allowed for not just a closed session, but also for non-agenda items from the public. So I would like to ask why it was stressed this way on the door. It should have said, meeting has been rescheduled to 4 o'clock, instead of turning away people that did come when it said 3:30 p.m. That was just wrong. That really needed to be clarified. I am now kind of trying to remember what I wanted to speak about, since I did come to 3:30 because there was more opportunity at that time. I do want to say that as long as 3 people in a row are being called up, all the 3 of them should be allowed to get up and speak. I noticed from the footage 2 weeks ago meeting, how 3 names were read, but only the first one got to actually complete before the time was cut off. But someone else had already moved from her seat from back there to get close as the instructions are given at the beginning to be ready to get up and speak. And then they came up for their turn, and of course the time was out for them. That's also, it comes across like the council doesn't really care about public input. As I said, 3:30 is a great time to come because there are very few people who come up so you can actually get to say something. And they just, when these things are suddenly changed, they don't get that at all. And I think there really needs to be a lot of improvement. And I'm running out of my time now. I understand that. I need to get this off before what I will have to try and remember what I came at 3:30 to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Linfesti. I appreciate your comments today. I'll be quite transparent. I think the cancellation of the 3:30 was a surprise to some of us on the dais as well, and the special meeting moved to 4 o'clock. And so I'd like to ask Ms. Gennaro, Mr. Clegg, and Mr. Marcus if we can ensure that there's proper notice on the exterior of our council chambers denoting the 4 o'clock special meeting. I'm assuming that happened, but if we can make it explicitly clear as day whenever we do cancel a 3:30 meeting and substitute it for a special meeting, that we make that clear that there is an available opportunity for members of the public to communicate. But in fact, we do want to hear from the public. We do welcome public input, and certainly 3:30 is an appropriate time to come and speak as well. Thank you.
We'll now move to the public statements listed on the agenda. If you're here to speak on items listed under consent calendar item 7. Now is your time to speak. Again, each speaker is given a 2-minute time limit, and each agenda item is limited to 20 minutes total. The consent calendar as a whole constitutes one agenda item. If you're here to speak on hearing item 9A, now is not the time to speak. You'll be given an opportunity to speak when that item is called later in the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items listed on consent calendar item 7?
Mayor Go, we've received 3 speaker cards for items listed on tonight's agenda. The first public speaker is Roman Matero regarding item 7D1, followed by Kev regarding item 7G3, and then Sandra Placencia regarding item 7E6.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Roman Matera, and as you've heard from all my as you can probably infer from all the things I've said at past meetings, you can imagine that I'm in firm support of this. I've been advocating exactly for the city to engage in this kind of purchasing process to, clean up some of this like unused land and put it to better use. So I think it's an amazing thing that you're doing. I wanted to clarify a couple things, just a couple quick questions. Number one, what's currently there at 901 Union Avenue?
Yeah, we are not able to respond this way. So.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't know. So I guess I would just ask, what is there? How much land is it? It's not listed here, and I know you can't list everything, but that would be an important thing. And finally, what do you plan to do with this land once you purchase it? Personally, I would push for some kind of either like apartment or maybe some kind of mixed use thing that has like room, like a building for business and for housing. But really just purchasing the unused land and doing something with it is a big improvement. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And next speaker, please. Kev, regarding 7G3.
So now that I can give my agenda comment, I want to speak against the miscellaneous agenda item 7G3 because it's a topic that ties into what I intended to say about 2 weeks ago. That as you, the city council, sits here and approve the conditions for the police, you increase their funding, you give them more surveillance power, which is likely to be used for discriminatory policing, and you offer them a system that lets them go unchecked. And on top of everything, last meeting, you had 2 resolutions that allowed the use of general funds to pay for surplus police ammunition. Do you know what that ammunition would be used for? Because I have an idea. It'd probably be used to train killer cops or to bring potentially fatal harm to members of the community, because it's known that police here in Bakersfield like to be violent. Or also, if it was put into the hands of the sheriff, it'd probably be used to shoot cats, because I'm not sure if you're aware of that video that came out. But I don't want to see funding for police for weapons that are going to be used to harm people or animals within this community. And that there is such a large police budget here, and that much of those funds can be used for other things. Because if you did care about public input, you'd hear how most people come here advocating for wanting projects within this community. They want funding for things to provide proper environmental protections. We want to see proper infrastructure. We want to see well-established housing. We want to see this place be affordable. But you are doing a lot to increase policing. We've seen that there's been more surveillance systems within the community. We see that you increase budgets, and we see that you use funds from the general fund to fund the police. And many members of this community don't want to see more police funding. But it's like I said, you don't truly care about long-lasting impacts on this community that are going to bring the benefit of people. You just want more policing, you want more control, and you want to exert that power.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Sandra Placencia.
Welcome.
Hi again. My name is Sandra Placencia. I'm a Kern Policy Advocate with Leadership Council. I just wanted to come up here and thank the city and also give a shout out to Greenfield Walking Group and Visión y Compromiso for all the amazing work that they did for the safe routes to school. I know they have been advocating for years, so just wanted to come up here, show our solidarity and our support with them. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Placencia. Greenfield Walking Group and Visión y Compromiso, thank you so much, and the action that you all have taken has been admirable, and your help with the youth. Madam Clerk? No. Vice Mayor? I think that's the last one. Yes.
Okay. No member of the council wishes to recuse themselves from any item or remove any item for separate consideration. So with that, I'll move to adopt the consent calendar.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent.
Thank you. Our next item is public hearings. Each side will be allowed 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes for all speakers per side. So it's important that you identify yourself and make your statements succinctly so others may speak. We'll hear statements from those opposed to the staff's recommendation first, and we'll hear from those who'd like to speak in favor of staff's recommendation. If there's testimony on both sides, each side will be allowed a 5-minute rebuttal. There's a clock on the TV screens behind me which indicates 15 minutes. Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and after 14 minutes, a yellow light will come on. At the end of 15 minutes, a red light will flash, indicating your time is up. Quickly end your statement. You may ask questions during your statement, but they won't be addressed until the public hearing is closed. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, give them to the clerk. She'll provide copies to the council. Please be courteous to others who wish to speak. Madam Clerk, please read the public hearing item.
Public hearing item 9A, HUD fiscal year 2024-25 action plan.
Thank you. Mr. Hallen?
Thank you, Mayor. We have Ms. Jenny Byers who will give us a presentation.
Ms. Byers, if you just hold 1 minute till everybody has an opportunity to finish clearing the chambers. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hallen, Mayor and council members. The item before you is our 24-25 action plan. It's our HUD required document. Every 5 years, we have to do a consolidated plan, which really identifies for the next 5 years what types of projects that we will spend our CDBG funding on. So those goals that were identified for the 2025 consolidated plan are up on the screen. We will be entering into a new consolidated plan this summer for the next 5 years. With that, we anticipate the resources, maybe. Or not. Point it at Julie. Okay. So we have these as anticipated resources because HUD didn't release the funding, the actual funding, until this morning. These items that are shown here, the dollar amounts shown here, are from last year's action plan. So HUD has updated it. There's a couple of changes that have been made. We also took this to our Budget and Finance and Economic Development Committee on February 26th, and we identified at that time that we didn't know what our end resources would be, but it would be split if there was some changes to that funding to the sidewalk repair program. This action plan is due to HUD on May 15th. We don't typically like to bring something just one meeting before council when it's required, but we kept hoping that HUD was going to distribute what our funding resources were. Like I said, they did distribute that to us this morning. We have almost $4 million in community development block grant, $1,801,000 to our home program. ESG is $334,000. and then HOPWA, which is our Housing for People with AIDS program, is $1,080,000 is the proposed funding in our action plan. These are identified by HUD, and so that is how the city, based off of the outreach that we have done, that's where the funding is proposed to be allocated. With that, I propose that City Council approve the funding plan for our 24-25 action plan.
Thank you, Ms. Byers. Anything further, Mr. Helen? Thank you. And at this time, item 9A is open. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? Please come to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. Welcome.
Hi, Sandra Placencia, Leadership Council. Not necessarily in opposition, more of a suggestion, but I will commence. The City of Bakersfield has proposed a variety of different housing programs and resources that fall under the HUD Action Plan. We encourage the city to leverage this funding in the housing element to ensure that proposed programs and policies will have a beneficial impact and be implemented during the sixth cycle. As the city works towards state compliance with their sixth cycle housing element, we highlight concerns raised through our April 29th, 2024 housing element comment letter. Government Code 65583 Subdivision C states that the city must ensure beneficial impacts of the programs within the planning period that the local government is undertaking or intends to undertake to implement the policies and achieve the goals and objectives of the housing element. In order to ensure that the policies are achieved and the goals as well, we encourage the city to utilize the HUD Action Plan funding for the proposed housing element programs. Community in Bakersfield has continuously asked for a permanent rental assistance program. The current housing element draft does not include an actual ongoing rental assistance program, but under the HUD Action Plan funding, HOPWA and ESG funds are eligible and are currently being proposed for a rental assistance program. We propose the city include an ongoing rental assistance program in the housing element draft, ensuring that the HUD Action Plan funding is cited as a potential funding source. Additionally, Action 5.1 proposes building approximately 25 units of housing for persons with disabilities during the 8-year planning period. We reiterate HCD's concerns of low numerical objectives that do not meet the need of the jurisdiction. Approximately over 500 residents within the city of Bakersfield have a disability and live on their own, with the highest concentration of residents with disability located in Northeast and Central Bakersfield, likely due to the need to live near transit and medical services, as well as having income restrictions and other issues related to housing access. There needs to be more housing units built during this housing cycle that will accommodate persons with disabilities, as they are a special population. We encourage the use of CDBG funds to ensure that at least 60 units of housings for persons with disabilities are constructed during the planning period. Lastly, we want to uplift the need for the city to continue hosting workshops, community meetings, and education on the housing element to continue gathering community input and feedback on the housing element. We reiterate the importance of public participation in the development, adoption, and implementation of the housing element as essential to effective housing planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Placencia. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of staff's recommendation? Please step to the microphone at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return it to council for comment and action. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick question for you, Ginny. I know we don't have the official numbers, but in the first slide, you mentioned that all of these buckets of funding are aimed at preventing and reducing homelessness. Can you identify which of those buckets allows for prevention dollars?
Yes, so in the consolidated plan, it is an outreach that we do with the community for the 5-year goals. Here, this is the proposed buckets of funding, and that is determined by HUD. So HUD tells us this is how much you're getting for HOPWA, this is how much you're getting in ESG, this is how much you're allowed to receive for the home funds. So what we're proposing in based on the consolidated plan in this year's action plan. In our home budget, we have a CHOTO set aside, and a CHOTO is a community housing development organization. It's a special status that is to receive $258,000. We have the down payment assistant program, which is also $258,000. And then for new construction out of the home budget, we are proposing $1.1 million to be set aside for the construction of housing units. In the ESG budget, we have rapid rehousing prevention is one of the programs, homeless outreach, and shelter operations. So we have $109,000 set aside for rapid rehousing and prevention, $25,000 for homeless outreach, and then $175,000 for shelter operations. As far as the CDBG budget, you are restricted to how you're allowed to use that funding. And so you're only allowed to have 15% of the funding go for it. 10% can go for administrative, 15% can go to public services. And so there's a lot of restrictions that come with this funding. I'd also like to state we can't guarantee this funding source. It changes every year. There's been threats of the program being eliminated. So to tie it to something like the future housing element that's a 10-year is not really allowed, but we do try to make sure that we have some programs. So one of the programs that we do have in CDBG that has been supported after the last 5 years is our Home Access ADA program, and we have done that because of the consolidated plan goals to include that. We have curb, gutter, sidewalk, ADA, lighting, public services. The senior center typically receives a portion of that, and so that's about $190,000, and that is capped by that 15%. In CDBG, senior center is one of the uses. Habitat for Humanity also has a workforce development program out of that public service, and so it really goes to a variety. They apply for the program. So when we were looking at the calendar that we have, where we had outreach, where we had the action plan was out for review, where we presented it to the Budget and Finance Committee, we had about 5 opportunities to have comments, have programs submitted, and so that's kind of how we work through some of this. For the home application, I'd have to go back and look to see where it's proposed from last year. I do know that Housing Authority received $1.1 million out of our home program last year, and so it really is going for the development of housing currently. I don't know if I answered your question.
You absolutely did, and then some. So thank you for walking me through that. I just want to, one, say thank you for putting this together. I know sometimes there can be significant delays with getting the official numbers from the federal government. I also just want to echo, some of the points that have been made tonight from Ms. Plasencia and others, that, an allocation towards rental and utility assistance to keep people housed those dollars stretch so much further when it comes to actually keeping people in their homes. So I'm not familiar with the details of home or CDBG and whether or not we can utilize some of those prevention dollars for that purpose. But I know that those dollars that we've recently set aside will go very fast. So I think where there's opportunities in the future to continue to make those allocations through steady streams of funding, if $5,000 can keep, a family in their home, as opposed to, having to create a brand new affordable housing unit that's going to cost upwards of $150,000, I think it's a no-brainer. It's common sense. So just thank you for the work that you're doing, and looking forward to future conversations to see if we can find some future funding for that purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jenny, for the presentation. Even though HUD, maybe on brand, sent you all the information this morning, it's good to still have this to work with for us. My questions are quite similar to Councilmember Arias's, which is not a surprise. You mentioned curb, gutter, sidewalk, and of course, connectivity is essential also to just the infrastructure we're building. Could you remind me where that's through the CDBG bucket that we have?
A lot of the curb, gutter, sidewalk programs that we have, and I'm sorry that I don't have a slide for you on that. It is something that Greg's team tracks, and so I don't know if you know which projects are. We really cobble together any funding source we can find.
The areas that we're focused in on are Alta Vista, East Truxton, and the Oleander area. Areas we've been focused in on today that we need to complete because there's a lot more curb gutter sidewalk, ADA access ramps to do there.
And
Okay.
Bell Terrace.
Bell Terrace, Bell Terrace as well.
Got it. And just for kind of public knowledge, what does this administrative fee cover that's listed?
So when we do projects such as the one that Mr. Strakalus is speaking to, because there's prevailing wage, we have Davis-Bacon, we have, so our administrative costs really cover our budget and finance person. They cover the staff member who's working on it. It covers the engineering. It covers the reporting that's required for the use of this funding, and that's the majority of where that funding goes to.
Is there room to build capacity, like staff, are we building staff capacity into some of the at least proposed budgets that we've outlined here? Is there room to do that, or is it just too unreliable? I know we can always grow, and I know that capacity is an issue that, you know, maybe we can spend some time thinking about. I was just curious if we've given some thought to dedicating that here as well.
We do have some fairly dedicated staff that work on this. We also utilize this funding sometimes for park activities, or not park activities, I'm sorry, parks equipment. And so it's really divided up between public works, parks, economic and community development. We do have quite a few staff members who touch these projects, and with that, the funding pays for them there.
Sorry, I should have been clearer. Do these budgets allow, like the criteria within it, do they allow for us to expand our staff within our departments that are working towards some of these goals that we have set at the city?
If we can go up to that 10%, but like I said,
Okay.
the funding source, it's always fluctuating, and I personally have seen it be very low. There were threats of it going away altogether, and that would mean laying off staff. But I've also seen it, right now it's at a great level, but we always have to be cognizant that this is year after year, and gave us our numbers today, even though our documents are due to them on the 15th.
Great. That's plenty of time, I'm sure, for your staff.
It is.
I want to echo the same sentiment that in kind of creating a vision for how we're increasing and preserving affordable housing, I think it's also an urgent priority for us to kind of mitigate the symptoms of homelessness and kind of how we find ourselves here. And if we can, where we can, dedicate those dollars to something like an eviction prevention program, like our friends at Leadership Council have indicated today. I also echo Councilmember Arias' sentiments and believe that that should be an urgent priority for us as we kind of create some of these budget guidelines. And my next question is also to Sandra's question. What do our next round of community workshops look like around the housing element or different ways in which we're engaging community?
Currently, the city is absorbing the comments that were received at the last 1 week period where we might accept comments, which was between April 22nd and April 29th. Our consultants digesting those comments, providing response to comments, and those will be assembled along with our second submittal to HCD, which will go out in approximately 2 to 3 weeks from now. After we complete that and send to HCD, there'll be at least a 60-day period where HCD can review it, and then it comes back to the city. So at this point in juncture, with a document going to HCD, there isn't any plans for additional comments or additional workshops in that the finished product will be with HCD for their digestion, and it's really a waiting period for the city then to take any further action specific to the comments that come back from HCD.
What did some of those comments look like? Could you give us a summary? How many comments did we get? What was kind of the major themes that you observed?
We received 3 letters that were in support of the housing element in a more generic form, and we received a letter from the Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability that provided, if I'm not mistaken, 24 to 26 pages of commentary, and those are specific comments that, as noted by Ms. Placencia as an example, that might provide for a numeric recommendation for a number of units to be produced for a specific sensitive community. As an example, staff was responsive to Leadership Council comments that asked for additional farm labor housing units to be produced over the 8-year 6-cycle element, and we adjusted that number in accordance. So some of them are numeric, some of them are policy-based, where, as an example, the note for the eviction protection plan, that's a policy decision from decision makers, and staff absorbs those comments and looks for additional guidance from HCD in whether or not to incorporate those comments tangibly within a housing element document. At the same time, I think it's fair to state, and it's topical as it relates to our action plan, that we have to be cognizant of our fiscal and be fiscally responsible. You want to be able to produce those goals within your policy document within that 8-year span. And so we're cognizant of things that we can do based on the funding that's available to us, noting questions from the dais just now. And that's an important dynamic when we look to take in comments, because we don't have a bottomless pot of funding that we can dedicate towards creating housing over an 8-year span. I've noted in prior conversations that when you're asked to produce 18,211 units or 2,277 units a year, if you were to build those, you'd be looking at something like $570 million annually over the 8-year span. Pardon me, yeah, $570 million annually over each of those 8 years. That's a difficult lift for the city to entertain. By the same token, I've said we'll do our level-headed best to produce as much housing as we can with the resources that we have available to us.
Thank you, Jenny. To you and your staff as well for creating this. I'm encouraged by seeing things like rapid rehousing being kind of one of our strategies and goals, really. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Corr. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to make the motion, but before I do so, I just want to commend staff on their tremendous job throughout this year's action plan and also for every year. And this is a labor-intensive exercise that often goes underappreciated when we're dealing with these federal HUD dollars. There's a lot of staff time spent on just compliance-driven documents. And I just want to congratulate all of the staff who's involved every year, and looking forward to the consolidated action plan planning for the future. Look forward to that exercise as well. And just want to say what an amazing opportunity that we realize when we use these dollars in a strategic and focused way. We are able to install basic city infrastructure to neighborhoods that have been for too long forgotten, disadvantaged neighborhoods. It's amazing, but colleagues, there are neighborhoods that I represent that don't have curb and gutter, basic infrastructure. These dollars are intended to help those neighbors, those residents, get those curbs, gutters, and sidewalks that they absolutely need. We're providing lighting upgrades to folks in Bell Terrace neighborhood, working with Ventura Community Development Corporation and their down payment assistance program. I've had an opportunity to witness firsthand some of the work that they're doing. There are families who are getting into homes who have been, for decades, renters, and for the very first time have been able to get into a home of their own because of this down payment assistance program. These are life-changing
investments that we're making through CDBG. And I know there's a lot of great ideas out there of other things that we could be doing, and I certainly want us to explore and see that. But I hate to discount a lot of the great work that's being done within this current action plan. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to approve. Thank you.
If the motion, please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Weir absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Council and Mayor statements.
Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, I just also want to commend staff. As the chair of the Safe Neighborhoods Committee, alongside Councilwoman Kaur and Councilmember Gray, just last week we received a presentation and an update on everything related to public safety, some of the great work that our amazing police department is doing, but also some of the work that some of our community-based organizations are doing. And I just want to shed light on the California Violence Intervention Prevention Program. We received an update, and we were pleasantly surprised to find out that the city of Bakersfield is one of the top 5 cities in reducing gun violence across the country, which is just incredible for us and deserves to be appreciated. But it's required a lot of work, and so we were able to learn about all of the great work that's happened, and I wanted to share a little bit of data that was brought to our attention. In the year 2021, the city of Bakersfield experienced 60 homicides across the city. This was a record-breaking year, and in fact, the year before, we had also set, at that time, a record at 47, and we thought, oh no, there's no way for us, it can't get any worse. Well, it did in 2021, and it was at 60. Now, in 2023, we cut that number even more than in half, and we ended up with 27 homicides. Now, every one of these lives is cherished, and we wish that there were none across the city, but to cut that number in half in so short of a time span is just really a testament to the great work that our police department is doing, with the creation of the mental health positions in 911 dispatch. We're able to divert calls that otherwise would have taken a PD officer out to that call when it could have been addressed potentially with a conversation with a therapist. So I just want to say thank you so much to our police department. Thank you to some of our community-based organizations, the Wendell Davis Foundation, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, Stay Focused, CAPK, who was here tonight, Garden Pathways, and so many others that have brought this program to life. And the one thought that I'll leave the community with is that it is incredibly hard work to get to this point. It is even harder for us to actually keep it at this level and to continue to make progress. And it would be my hope that staff bring a presentation to the full council to share these thoughts and the successes, but also that this council be prepared to make ongoing investments into this program to continue to keep our community safe. And with that, I would like to offer an opportunity, if it's okay with you, Mayor, to Councilmember Gray, who joined me at that meeting, to provide some additional thoughts on this item.
Councilmember Gray, do you wish to comment?
Yes,
Go ahead.
absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Arias. Yes, Eric and I were both very uplifted when we left that meeting last week on the professionalism, the ingenuity of our Bakersfield Police Department. They're looking for ways that they can make a difference. They're not just using standard, traditional methods to police our city, but they're looking for ways that they can bring down response times. Our response times now, the national acceptable response time is 7 minutes. Our response times are now under 7 minutes, going down under the national average. And that is for are priority 1, priority 2. It's for all of them. But the bulk of our calls, 911 calls, are coming in for burglary, assaults, and those are down to 32 minutes. But our priority 1 response times are at 6.75 minutes. So that was very encouraging that they're finding ways to get those response times down, because that's something that we've been talking about as a council that we needed to improve, and we're definitely improving. We've added, because of PSVS funds, we've added more officers to our department, and that's helping in that. But I believe that there's just some really good thinking going on. The 911 calls, our goal and national standard is to answer 95% of all 911 calls within 20 seconds. And 91.7% of our calls now are answered within 93.6, it's up by 2% over 2022, and 23 were answered. So that's another shout out. The 2 clinicians that we started out with one therapist, mental health clinician. We got up to 2, and I believe Assistant Manager Helen, do we have 1 or 2 in our 911 call center right now? I know it sounded like we were down by 1. We're trying to get to 3. What are we now?
I believe we have 2.
We have 2, okay. And we're trying to get to 3, but they handled 84% of the calls that came in that people were dealing with mental illness. 84%. That was 84% of the calls that the officers that could deal with priority 1, priority 2 calls could go out to. So that is huge, and we do have in the budget for that 3rd clinician. It's just a matter of hiring that person right now. It all comes down to hiring people, it seems, huh? And then overall, our crime rate is down by 12% in the city, which was great to hear. Unfortunately, we're having a huge spike in domestic violence in our city. That is way up, and I think people are just stressed out today. There's a lot of things going on with inflation and so forth, and I think it creates a lot of havoc. That's just my thinking on it. No police officer or the chief did not tell me that, but it's harder today. So overall, we're down by 12%, and I went home and shared all this with my husband at dinner, and I just want to give a shout out to our Bakersfield PD, all of our community action partners that are working to make this city a safer place. And I want to thank my colleagues on the dais that we are in one accord here with funding our police department, our fire department, to make sure that our city is a safer place to live. And I'm just really grateful to be and honored to be able to serve this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gray. Councilmember Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think this question is directed at Mr. Howland in the absence of Mr. Craig. And what I would like is, let's say within the next 2 council meetings, give you a little time, just an update on a few directives we've given to the Planning and Development Committee that are 6 to 12 months old. And that's because they are difficult issues. We probably do the easy ones first. But the first was we asked for a recommendation from the P&D Committee on how we could scale the city's fees for the development community, specifically residential, to help with our affordable housing, to make the fees just the ones the city controls, based on some formula of the lot size and the house size, recognizing that the smaller the lot and the smaller the house, the less impacts we have on everything. So we asked for a study, where can we scale the fees from, it could be a park fee, it could be a road fee, but things the city controls. We can't control school fees and other things, but that was the first. The other study we asked for was how we're going to change, I will suggest probably change the size of future parks cost engineer the parks so that we can limit, either hold the park fee flat or limit the increase, because right now we're told from Parks and Rec that the fee covers about 50% of the cost. We're not building parks because in some cases, we've collected most of the fees. Others, we have about, I heard, 8 or 9 parks where we're in some stage, the land's been set aside, the subdivision design, the park's in the middle, it's just dirt, we're collecting fees, and we have no schedule to build a park because it apparently costs $1 million an acre, and we were collecting fees for 500,000 an acre. So we're just turning our back. We're basically pretending this many years now, we don't have a problem. People say, well, where's my park? I paid for it. So I was hoping we could get 2 things. One was we have to come up with a new design of a park that doesn't cost so much to build. And that only occurs where we can only implement this on future subdivisions where we haven't already designed it and set the land aside. So we're talking out there in the future, but we got to do it. And that means revising what equipment goes into the park. Does it have a bathroom or not? What is the size? Is it a 5-acre park instead of 10? But the only way to reduce costs, you have to reduce the inputs, okay? Well, let's not assume inflation is going to come down, the cost of a park is going to plummet, because I don't think it is. I think it's, government wants to slow the rate of increase of inflation. They're not talking about reducing deflation. So that's critical. The other is that I'd call it a schedule that is our best effort based on, as these subdivisions develop that are already out there, collecting fees, build out, when we will build each of finish these 9 parks, start and finish. And that would probably be over 3 or 4, it could be 5 years. But at least it's a pro forma schedule, says this is how we're going to go about it, because those will be priorities in every year's budget. And the ones that it may only be 2 of them this year. The next year they may fall in the next 2, but we don't have a game plan. And once you at least lay it out, we have a game plan and we can fold it into our budgets and know it's going to happen. Because I think up till now we've sort of been wishing the problem would go away. It's not going away. And we kind of have an obligation to people who, builder, if the builder spends $5,000 or $10,000 for land set aside and park fees, and it's in that house, trust me, he doesn't do it to lose money. They've already paid. So we have an obligation to fund those parks in the proper amount of time, and maybe we have to phase those parks that we've already committed to. But we need a game plan, and I'd like at least an update to the council within a couple of council meetings on each of these items, or when we're even going to schedule the way we might scale fees, or if you come back and say we can't do it, but we haven't even tried to think about it yet. And all of these are to try to create more affordable housing and control the increases in housing. So it's definitely one of the city's goals. Everybody talked about it tonight. Everybody's talking about it. It's a huge problem for all of us in California, but even Bakersfield, the most affordable city, it's a huge problem here. So I just want to see us start dealing with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't expect to talk so much tonight, but here I am. Tonight, we ratified the purchase of a blighted property at 901 Union Avenue. This is the Ram Kabir Hotel. This is item 71 on tonight's agenda. This property has been a problematic site for the city with over 25 code complaints since 2003, including 7 that occurred within the last 2 years alone. It recently went up for sale at an auction after being foreclosed upon. I just want to commend staff, Gary Hallen, Jenny Byers. I know there were others who were involved in this process. I want to thank everyone for being so creative. Jenny Gennaro was involved and her team at the City Attorney's Office for acting so quickly on this. Once we heard of this auction, how quickly they moved was impressive. And they utilized the past authorization that this council gave through a resolution in 2022 to pursue this chronic nuisance property, which I thought was ingenious. And they moved very quickly in order to get this into our hands. This project, I think, is unique and innovative, and I think it's a win-win-win situation for the city. Number one, it will hopefully provide an additional 35 units of housing. Don't quote me on that, probably maybe a little fewer than that when it's all said and done and finally designed. But it will provide more housing units for those who are experiencing homelessness far more quickly than new construction would, frankly. It'll also, the second win, I think, is that this rehab actually is far cheaper. When we took a look at the cost per door of other residential motels, these SROs as they call them, single room occupancy complexes, the cost per door ranges anywhere from $50,000 a door to $96,000 a door. When I took a look at the last 5 sales, it averaged out to around $78,000 per door. This particular residential motel was sold to the city for around $37,000, $37,838 per door. Significantly less. We know that it will require some renovation work, and so you can probably add $800 to probably $1.2 million on top of that. So all in, it'll still be less than that $78,000 average. So that's the second win. And then the third win is that it really addresses the issue that is really close to my heart. And there's 2 interrelated issues. One is this continued deferred maintenance of a lot of these residential motels throughout the city of Bakersfield that ultimately end up in disrepair and being closed by environmental health or code enforcement, or they catch fire, or they have some other type of issue which reduces the inventory of housing that so many people, for better or for worse, they rely on. And so for us to continue to go down this road, that is problematic. So I'm very excited now that we're taking a new approach and we're taking this step forward in acquiring this property, getting it into our control, and then revitalizing it in order to make it far more safer, healthier, cleaner for the residents who need it the most. And then the final thing is it cleans up Union Avenue. And as I mentioned in my comments last meeting, we must do more to address the chronic issues and compounding issues that are facing Union Avenue, especially between Highway 58 and California Avenue. So there's a lot of wins here. There may be 4 wins, actually, in this whole action, according to my count. And I just, again, want to thank staff for being so innovative, for being bold, for being nimble, agile, all these things that we want in government 2.0, right? Government in the 21st century. We know that the challenges require us to be far more swift in our action. And that certainly was demonstrated in this particular project. So 2 thumbs up from this councilman. Thank you.
Councilmember Cora.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to wish Happy Mother's Day to all of the moms in my life and all the individuals and people who play either the role of a mom, sister, aunt in someone's life and are pouring that kind of love into someone's life. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. And as my, on a related note, but unrelated, I'd like to make a request of city staff as well. I'm still kind of thinking about the comments that Councilmember Arias and Councilmember Gray had made about the ways in which we've successfully at least improved the rates of certain types of crime in our community. And I'm still sitting with the stats on the domestic violence. And while many times this is deemed to be an intimate partner, household issue or matter, I'll be honest, I receive a lot of calls related to domestic violence, and a lot of times, most of the times, I'm left feeling helpless and without any resources to really provide any aid there. So I wanted to ask if we could return with having done some research on community-based solutions that exist elsewhere that might be partnerships between local organizations and city governments. I've seen local governments do trainings of that sort of thing. I know there's efforts from kind of federal organizations and entities like HRSA. There's a few organizations at our state level as well, but I think at least a local approach, since this is such a high level of crime that we're seeing in our city, maybe it looks like us supporting organizations that are already doing the work that might have a capacity issue. And I think most of the time when I hear, when folks do call me, and most of the time it's women with, children, young children, and what they kind of respond with is, we've tried that, we've been turned away, there's capacity issues. So maybe it is just us looking to support work that already exists, but if we can explore some of those opportunities to partner and have a similar kind of targeted approach at this kind of bucket of crime that we're seeing, so we can, ease that burden off of our local law enforcement for them to handle some of the more dire and urgent needs of the community that they can address, and we can have a more community-based solution and approach to at least helping. But I would love for us to be a part of that solution and at least work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other requests to speak, and so we stand adjourned at 6:46.